I really do try to keep these videos short, but this one will probably turn into a very long topic. So I'm going to say that at the beginning and watch this video end up being short. Um, so what I would like to talk about is this concept. You'll hear people say, oh, it's 80% nutrition or 80% diet, and it's only 20% training. I've even seen people make statements that it's like, it's 99% diet. You know, people love to really overstate the value of diet. And I don't want to say that there isn't a grain of truth in that, because there is. There certainly is. But of course, and this is that thing, context, and it depends. I know everyone hates to hear that. Everyone hates to hear, it depends, or context. But let's just dive right in and get, honest about things. Look at the way some of these pro athletes eat. Do you really think it's diet? Now, I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I think that diet is very important, okay? But I think that people need to recognize that there is a big difference between performance and health, and those two things are absolutely not related, okay? Look at a bodybuilder on the day that they're stepping on stage. If you ran their blood work, their liver enzymes are elevated, their creatinine's elevated, their BUN is elevated. Like, this is not a healthy person, okay? Stan Efferding. If you want to be healthy, don't compete, all right? This is the reality of sports as well, though, okay? You see these guys with these chiseled six-pack abs, and, they're performing at an extremely high level. You'd be shocked how many of these people are actually unhealthy should you run their blood work. I think his name is Sal DiStefano. To me, I want to call it Stefano, but maybe that's just the Italian in me. But he was being interviewed on some podcast. I feel like it was, maybe Max Lugavere or something like that. And he made this comment about how a lot of people in the health and fitness industry, these personal trainers and these fit people, are actually not very healthy. They're very fit, but they're not healthy should you look at their blood work and their markers. And yeah, that's true. A lot of them are not healthy when you actually run the blood work on them, or you look at, like, they have gut problems, right? Because they have digestive issues from the amount of food that they have to eat. I've been telling people that for years, that, this whole, oh, they have GH gut. No, they don't have GH gut. If they had GH gut, you'd be able to see that their organs were actually enlarged on an MRI. They're not. Why is their gut distended then? Why do all these guys have these big giant guts? Oh, right, because they're pushing huge quantities of food. Try eating 1,000 grams of carbs a day. I don't care if you do rice or not. If you start doing 1,000 grams of carbs in the form of rice even, your gut is going to be distended because of the sheer volume of food that you're eating. I had GH gut, right? My friends all made fun of me for a while. They were like, why does your belly always distend? You got GH gut, bro. And it was like, no, I was eating literally pounds of frozen vegetables a day. And a lot of them were foods that I probably should have been avoiding because they were on that FODMAP list there. And sure enough, my gut was always distended. When I removed those, magically, my stomach flattened out. Oh, damn. I guess I was giving myself some gut problems from eating too many vegetables. Is that a real problem? Yes, it is, actually. Like, look around. You can find people who... And I'm not telling you vegetables are bad. This is not a, oh, don't eat vegetables because vegetables are bad. But excessive quantities of vegetables might be a different story, right? Like, can we agree on that? Can we agree that, hey, there's nothing wrong with eating some broccoli, but eating 3 pounds of broccoli might make your stomach a little distended, okay? So, coming full circle back to this whole thing, training and diet, right? 80-20. Well, if your goal is performance, then training is always going to far outweigh diet. I've talked about this in the past. Whenever I was in college, I trained my ass off, and I ate Burger King and McDonald's and Subway and Pizza Hut. Vicelli's Pizza actually is really my preference when it comes to pizza. It might be a pit thing. We had a Vicelli's Pizza right there on campus, and they always had them really cheap. So in any case, the point that I'm making here, though, is that, like, this was not a healthy diet. I ate a diet of Burger King and McDonald's and Wendy's and Subway, but I trained my ass off. And so, yeah, like, I could run 6 miles in less than an hour. Oh well. Like, there's nothing all that impressive about that. That's not a world record or anything. But my point is like, when you look at these things and you're trying to pull apart, like, hey, how much does training matter versus diet? Um, you know, Training matters more. It does. At one point, I am not sitting here claiming I ran a 4 minute mile, but I was down in the fours. Okay? So I was getting real close. Mind you, as I point out to people, I weighed 111 pounds. Okay? I weighed 111 pounds when I was getting close to a 4 minute mile. The bigger you are, the slower you run. Sorry, folks. That's just the way it is. So by the time I got up to like 155, I wasn't running anything close to a 4 minute mile anymore. But at 111 pounds, I was getting very close. Of course, I had like zero strength, but I was great at running. In fact, I got to the point where I was running 10 and 12 miles a day eventually at one point. We've discussed that. I've talked about that in the past, how I did an excessive amount of running. I got up to 100 miles a week. I even had weeks where I was running 120. I didn't do that every single week because I actually fluctuated my volume a little bit. But the point being that I did an excessive amount of running, and that will burn off a lot of food, and you can eat a lot of crap when you're doing that much, especially when you're also in the pool. I would spend hours in the pool swimming and just swimming laps back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, just for hours on end. I don't recommend people train like this. I did it, but I can sit here and tell you that having done it, there's definitely better ways for you to accomplish this goal than for you just to keep logging more and more volume. It's like there's a reason why they're called junk miles. They're junk miles because they are junk miles. You don't need them. You could do less miles, but do higher quality miles, and you would get a better benefit out of this. That's probably a different video for a different time, but I think I am illustrating the point that if you do enough volume, you can eat a trash diet. And so obviously the training matters more. We all know Dave Tate's story about having done this diet from J.M. Blakely. Again, the training mattered more than the diet. Okay, it's not like Dave was following some super healthy diet. He's eating Hershey bars around the clock. If your goal is performance, the training is what matters most. Plain and simple. And performance is not the same as health. Okay? So where does diet become more critical? It becomes more critical when it's about health. If your goal is to be as healthy as possible, then yes, it probably is 80% diet and only 20% training. You really don't need to have a ton of training or even high quality training to be generally healthy. If you get some exercise in, you do some resistance training, you do a little bit of cardio, you're going to be healthy. Okay? There's nothing healthy about running over 100 miles a week. That is not healthy. There's nothing healthy about lifting till your tendons are tearing. There's nothing healthy about excessive levels of training. Okay? I mean, but as I pointed out, when you're training at those high levels, I can sit down and eat 2 pints of Ben & Jerry's ice cream and not gain weight. Because why? Because I'm burning it off. Because I spend my whole day running and swimming, running and swimming, running and swimming, running and swimming. I think I've told you guys, I quit my job so I could train. And I spent the whole day training. So, but, your intensity drops off. So you have this massive volume, but I'm not clocking high quality miles here. It's basically just log the miles, even if you're just jogging, because it's just volume at that point. And that's why it is junk volume. It's just junk miles. So, if your goal is health, though, you probably need to pay attention to some things. You should pay attention to your lipids. What's your cholesterol? What's your LDL? What's your HDL? What do your triglycerides look like? What's your fasting glucose? What's your HbA1c? What's your fasting insulin? What's your creatinine? What's your BUN? Those are all things that you're worth looking at. What's your albumin level? How about your alkaline phosphatase? Yeah, you might want to stop and look at some of those things if your goal is health. If your goal is health, you might want to look at what's my ALT? What's my AST? What's my CPK? How's my ferritin level? How about my iron level? Might want to take a look at that. How about your aldolase level? Probably never looked at that. What's your TSH? but what's your TSH and T4 and T3? What's your reverse T3? LH, FSH, prolactin, cortisol, ACTH? Ooh, you might want to start paying attention to those things if your goal is health. What's your C-reactive protein? What's your homocysteine? These are all things that matter in terms of health, and of course you can improve those things through proper diet. I mean, no one's going to sit here and tell you that you can't. I don't care what people want to argue. People want to argue, oh, diabetes, it has nothing to do with sugar. Yes, it does. You know it does. Okay? Excessive amounts of sugar will cause you to have high blood glucose. You'll have high HbA1c. Like, this is not up for debate. I can't believe people argue this stuff. It's well documented. You want to lower your HbA1c? Eat less carbs. Eat less sugar specifically. Really, I'm actually just talking about sugar. I don't think you need to eat less carbs like, oh, you can't have, potatoes or vegetables. I'm not telling you zero carb either. I'm just telling you maybe don't drink 2 liters of Coca-Cola a day. Like, it's amazing. There are people out there who have reversed their type 2 diabetes just because they switched from soda to diet soda. Okay? This shouldn't be something controversial either. I'm sure someone will get offended because I suggested drinking diet soda. Oh my God, diet soda. Yeah. And suddenly you just knocked your calories way down and you reduced your sugar intake, and guess what? Now your blood glucose is better and your HbA1c is better. If your goal is health, you can improve your health through diet, especially like if you're getting proper nutrition. You're deficient in iron. Eat some more red meat. You're deficient in B12. Eat some more red meat. Like, I can't believe that some of this stuff ends up being controversial. It's so well documented and so well researched at this point in time. I don't know why there are people that still deny these things. They're like, it's all just calories. But it isn't, because you know that vitamins and minerals matter. Oh, it's all just calories. You can get healthy eating Twinkies. Yeah, that's true. If you're really overweight and you restrict your diet and you are already extremely unhealthy, and then you eat nothing but Twinkies, but you lose weight, your health will improve. But then at some point, you will plateau, and you will need to eat foods that have vitamins and minerals in them. You can probably go quite a long time eating nothing but Twinkies. But at some point, Twinkies are not going to have enough vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin K in them for you to be healthy long term. So just because you can do it for a month and improve your markers because you were in a caloric deficit, doesn't mean that you can do this for years on end and not end up having a deficiency in zinc. Right? Like, this should not be a controversial comment. But I'm sure it will be to someone. But certainly, you can eat nothing but Twinkies for a month and you'll be fine. Do that for several years, and now you have vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So, why do people take multivitamins? Maybe because vitamins and minerals matter? Yeah, maybe they do. It's not like we need to bring back rickets or something, right? Maybe. Vitamin C, scurvy? No? Never heard of it? Yeah, because it isn't really much of an issue these days unless you were doing something really weird where you were purposely avoiding foods that have vitamin C in them. Then you probably actually could give yourself scurvy on some level. Just throwing it out there, folks. I mean, you can develop a nutrient deficiency. It's pretty rare, given that most of our foods are fortified. But if you were to eat just one food over and over and over again, like Twinkies, for years on end, you would probably eventually end up with some vitamin and mineral deficiencies. This is important for your health. So as I pointed out, this whole 80-20 thing, it's 80-20 nutrition, right? 80% nutrition and 20% training if maybe your goal is health. If your goal is performance, well, all bets are off at that point, because when it comes to performance, it's really just a matter of eat a lot of calories. And if you're eating a ton of food, it's really hard to end up deficient in vitamins and minerals. Imagine yourself at something that is a high caloric intake. I think it's funny. I've heard people be like, I have a really high caloric intake. I eat 2,200 calories a day. It's like, dude, that's like fucking maintenance for a normal male. Not even. 2,200 calories is not a high caloric intake. Now take a look at someone who's really training hard, and they're like big. Like these big guys who are moving huge weights. Oh man, they're eating like 4,000, 5,000 calories a day. Maybe 6. Some of these guys are eating up to 10. Wow. Do you think you're going to run into vitamin and mineral deficiencies when you're eating 8,000 calories a day? No, the sheer volume of food that you have to eat, you're going to end up getting enough of everything. But if you look at someone who's restricting and they're eating 1,200 calories a day, yeah, you could end up with a vitamin or mineral deficiency. That's not out of the realm of possibilities when you're restricting. But, you look at some of these athletes putting down 5,000, 6,000 calories a day. I don't care what they're eating. They're probably not going to end up with vitamin and mineral deficiencies because they're eating just a huge volume of food. So, even if they're eating junk, even if you're eating Burger King, even if you're eating McDonald's, you're going to get enough vitamins and minerals just due to the fact that you eat a huge volume of food. And so I wish people would step away from this 80-20 thing, because it's not true. We all know it's not true. You really can't quantify these things, because, my 20% training isn't the same as your 20% training even. And, there's this whole issue of context. Okay? If your diet is abysmal, then it could completely destroy your performance. There are certainly people who eat such a bad diet that it does impair their performance, but in general, most people are not eating bad enough that their diet impairs their performance, provided they eat enough calories. That's really the big difference. If you want to sabotage your performance, undereat. If you eat enough, you've put enough fuel in the tank, well, that's pretty much going to cover the bases. I mean, as long as you keep eating enough fuel to keep the engine running, yep, your performance is going to be fine. Your blood work might look like shit, but performance-wise, you've got enough calories on board to keep pushing out, okay? And that's really what I want to just point out to people. I don't want to ever take a polarized position on anything where I'm saying, oh, nutrition doesn't matter, because it does, but it matters less than the training if your goal is performance. If your goal is health, nutrition matters infinitely more. And, you could just do zone cardio. Zone 2 cardio, I think, is the one that everyone's ranting about. I'm anti-zone 2, but that's probably a different discussion. But, if you do zone 2 cardio for, 30 minutes 3 times a week, you'll get the health benefits. And that probably actually is some truth to that, especially considering that the most people are just sedentary. But I think that resistance training is better. It's backed up by research, actually. Resistance training is way better than cardio. Better glucose disposal, all kinds of good things for you, bone health, etc. But, like I said, different video, different topic. But the point is that you don't really need to train a whole lot to be healthy. You just need some light exercise and you can be healthy as long as you're following a healthy diet. If your goal is performance, you want to run that 4-minute mile. You want to squat 1,000 pounds. You're not going to see a whole lot of guys squatting 1,000 pounds doing a keto paleo thing. I'm unaware of anyone squatting over 1,000 pounds doing some kind of, keto vegan shtick. Maybe they're out there. Maybe someone's out there. But as far as I can tell, most of the guys I know of who squat over 1,000 pounds, they're basically on a diet where they just eat everything. I mean, they don't have any weird rules. They're not like, oh, I'm gluten-free or whatever. They're just eating food. They're eating a lot of it. So, there you guys have it. Yeah. If you guys have questions, comment below. I'm more than happy to talk about, specifics of training. I love talking about training because I am a training junkie. I always think that training is more interesting than, what you're eating. I really don't care what people eat. If you want to do vegan, do vegan. If you want to do keto, do keto. If you want to do carnivore, paleo, whatever you choose. I think they all work if you do them correctly. I really do. I really believe that. I think you can do a vegan diet and be a great athlete. And I think you can do a carnivore diet and still be a great athlete. So I think that as long as you're dialed in, you can make up for those things. But really, I think that the training matters most when it comes to performance. And I don't think anyone can really disprove that. I don't know anyone who can train half-assed and set a world record. These people that set world records because they train really fucking hard. So, if you have thoughts on this, comment below. If you have questions, comment below. If you like the video, like the video. I can do more of these. If you like this topic, you want to talk about training and diet and how these things integrate, because I talk about periodizing your training as well as periodizing your diet. I'm big on that. I think it's important that you go through phases where you have high carb and low carb. I think that that's a smart thing to do. I think it should match your training. If you're doing a lot of glycolytic work, you should have some carbs. If you're just doing strength work, you don't really need a whole lot of carbs to do singles. It just doesn't work that way. ATP-CP, you don't need a whole lot of carbs. If you're doing a lot of really low intensity steady state, again, you really don't need a whole lot of carbs. So like when you periodize your training, you should periodize your nutrition to go along with it so that it actually complements your training. This, to me, seems obvious, but apparently that's a weird thing for me to state that. Because for some odd reason, people are like, no, you have to do one diet all the time, no matter what your training looks like. It's like, well, that sounds like a cult. Anyways, subscribe, and I'll have more of these coming out. Talk about some different topics. I have some ideas on strongman too. I may or may not do an experiment in the upcoming future. We'll see. And if I choose to do this experiment, I will document the outcome of this experiment, and I'll let you guys follow along with whether or not I do it. I haven't decided on that yet, but I kind of have this weird, the bug's there. I kind of want to try strongman even though I'm really small. So I'll be the world's smallest strongman. I'm not actually going to compete in strongman. I can't. I'm not big enough. I'm not strong enough. But I feel like maybe doing strongman training for a while could be an interesting experiment. And then I'd circle back and see, hey, did it improve my squat? Did it improve my deadlift? Does lifting Atlas stones, does that drive your deadlift up? I don't know. Only one way to find out. And that's one of the things I'm big on. You guys should experiment. Like, don't ever get locked into something. Go try something different. Go do some log presses and see if that doesn't improve your deadlift. Like, pulling that log off the ground is heavy. That's hard. It's a lot harder than lifting a barbell. Do some Atlas stones. It's a lot harder than lifting a barbell. I think my best Atlas stone was like 200 and some odd pounds. My best deadlift was like 455, and that wasn't even a 1-rep max. I don't ever test my max on deadlifts because I don't think it's cool to tear biceps. Anyways, I've gone on entirely too long about this experiment. You guys will now be disappointed if I don't do it. But who knows? Maybe I will. I'm thinking about it. Just need to find some equipment. Anyways, subscribe, comment, like, share it. Let me know what you guys think. And actually, if anyone out there does do strongman training but doesn't compete, and you just use it for like general sport stuff, please comment below. I would love to, interact, communicate something with someone who is already doing this, and I would ask them if it's improving their lifts on other things. Does doing a yoke carry make your squat go up? I would assume it does, but maybe it doesn't. So tell me if it didn't. If you already are doing that and you're like, no, I started carrying a 600-pound yoke and my squat went down, comment below. I'm actually interested to hear that. So there you guys have it.